A heartbreaking update on Lil Scrappy's health. There was a moment when it seemed like Lil Scrappy was on the mend, but today, just as hope had begun to bloom, doctors delivered some devastating news. The results of his recent tests were far worse than anyone expected. The atmosphere has shifted, and now, things are taking a terrifying turn. The hospital room is thick with tension, as doctors speak in hushed tones and the sound of urgent beeping fills the air. Scrappy's family is gripped by fear. Mama D, trying to keep her composure, holds her phone tight, fighting back tears. Bambi stands motionless, hands trembling, anxiously awaiting answers as she locks eyes with the doctor. The worst part? No one knows what's causing Scrappy's sudden decline. His breathing is shallow, his heart rate erratic, and the doctors are at a loss. All the family can do now is pray. Will Scrappy survive, or is something far worse on the horizon? Stay with us as we break down the shocking details of his test results, his family's emotional turmoil, and the desperate measures the doctors are considering to save him. This is the update nobody saw coming. Inside the ICU, the air is thick with a mix of anxiety and the sterile scent of antiseptic. The constant beep of the monitors serves as a grim reminder that every second counts. Scrappy, once full of life, now lies motionless in the hospital bed. His face, usually vibrant, is now pale, his breathing labored, and his condition worsening by the minute. Bambi is at his side, holding his hand, her once perfectly manicured nails chipped from stress. Her voice, hoarse from whispering constant prayers, trembles as she presses her fingers to his cheek. Scrappy, baby, you promised me. You told me you'd fight. Please, don't leave me. Mama D, the strong matriarch of the family, stands at the door, her face streaked with unshed tears. She watches her son, helpless. Her voice cracks as she mutters, "Lord, don't take my son, not like this." Dr. Mitchell enters the room, his expression grave. He's seen bad news before, but this feels different. The stakes are high, not just for Scrappy, but for the many fans and loved ones who are hoping for a miracle. We need to talk, he says, his tone softer than usual, yet firm. Bambi's eyes are wide with dread. What's happening? What's wrong? With a deep sigh, Dr. Mitchell looks at the family and then at Scrappy's monitors. Scrappy's most recent test results are in, and they're not good. His liver function has deteriorated drastically. His oxygen levels are low again, and his kidneys are under extreme stress. We've been monitoring his heart closely, and unfortunately, the strain is getting worse. Bambi shakes her head in disbelief. But yesterday, you said he was getting better. How could it change so quickly? Dr. Mitchell's voice is filled with sympathy. It's the unpredictability of his condition. Sometimes, the body gives the illusion of improvement before complications arise. Right now, it's a fight, and it's becoming harder to win. Tears start to fall from Bambi's eyes as she squeezes Scrappy's hand tighter. What are you saying? What does this mean? We're doing everything we can, Dr. Mitchell replies, his tone grave. But we may need to consider more drastic measures if his condition doesn't improve in the next 24 hours. Bambi's voice trembles with desperation. What kind of measures? Mama D, the protector, steps forward, her voice sharp. What do you mean by drastic? Dialysis, possibly a transplant, and if his heart continues to fail, we may need to put him on life support. Bambi cries out, her voice full of grief and panic. No, that's not an option. Scrappy's a fighter. He's not going to die like this. Mama D, holding her ground, replies fiercely, he's been through so much already. He's not giving up now. He can't. Dr. Mitchell takes a deep breath, nodding. I know this is hard, but we have to prepare. The next 24 hours are critical. Outside the hospital, the world is buzzing with concern. News outlets are covering Scrappy's health crisis, and fans have taken to social media with a single message, #PrayForScrappy. Even those who haven't always been close to him are offering support. The world is waiting, hoping for an update. Inside the ICU, the tension is unbearable. Bambi, her heart heavy, turns to Mama D. We need to call everyone. Every prayer counts. With a nod, Mama D pulls out her phone. We're not just praying. We're fighting for him. The beeping of the machines fills the silence, a reminder of the precarious situation Scrappy is in. Each passing moment feels like an eternity. Everyone waits, holding their breath, hoping for a sign. As the night wears on, the hospital becomes a battleground. Scrappy's family is unwavering, even as the tension rises. But then, just when it seems like hope is slipping away, something miraculous happens. Scrappy moves. His fingers twitch, his eyelids flutter, and for the first time in hours, a sense of hope surges through the room. The fight is far from over, but this small movement feels like a victory. Will Lil Scrappy make it through this? Stay tuned for the latest updates, as the family continues to fight for his life. His eyes barely opened as Bambi grasped his hand, sobbing. Baby, I'm here. Here I am. Scrappy struggled to maintain eye contact. His voice was weak, his breathing shallow. What's going on? Dr. Mitchell asked gently. You've been in the intensive care unit, Scrappy. Your body is fighting hard. Trying to comprehend, Scrappy swallowed. Am I going to die? Bambi quickly shook her head. No, sweetheart. You'll be all right. You just need to rest. Mama D dabbed at her tears. Boy, you scared the life out of us. Scrappy forced a faint smile. I'm still here. A brief wave of relief swept through the room, but Dr. Mitchell's expression remained grave. Scrappy, you have to fight harder than ever. The next 24 hours are crucial. Scrappy blinked slowly. I got you. Bambi kissed his forehead. My man is strong. But just as hope began to take root, alarms blared. The machine shrieked. Scrappy stiffened, his breathing turned erratic. Dr. Mitchell went pale. He's crashing again. The room erupted in chaos. Nurses rushed in, adjusting monitors, administering emergency care. The battle wasn't over. It was only beginning. This time, it was life or death. The once vibrant rapper who had captivated audiences with his energy now lay fragile, struggling for survival. His chest barely rose with each shallow breath. Bambi, seated beside him, clutched his limp hand. The sleepless nights had taken their toll. Her flawless nails were chipped, her eyes swollen from crying. Every beep of the machines twisted her stomach in terror. Please, Scrappy, she whispered. You promised me. You said you wouldn't leave me. In the corner, Mama D paced, her grip on her phone so tight, her knuckles turned white. The strongest matriarch now felt powerless, forced to watch as her son fought for his life. She muttered prayers under her breath, but deep inside, she knew that faith alone might not be enough. Outside the hospital, social media buzzed with fans pleading for Scrappy's recovery. Hashtags like #FightScrappy and #PrayForScrappy flooded Instagram and Twitter. Friends, fellow artists, and even former rivals united in support, sending messages of love and hope. The world watched, prayed, and hoped for a miracle. But inside, the news was grim. Dr. Mitchell entered the room, his face somber. His condition has worsened. His liver is failing, his oxygen levels have dropped again, and his kidneys are barely functioning. Bambi's voice quivered. But yesterday you said he was improving. How did this happen so fast? Dr. Mitchell sighed. The body can give false signs of recovery. While we saw some progress, new complications have arisen. His body is fighting, but it's not enough. Mama D's voice was incredulous. What do you mean it's not enough? What do we do next? Dr. Mitchell hesitated. We may have to consider emergency dialysis. If he doesn't stabilize within 24 hours, a transplant might be our only option. And if his heart continues to struggle, we may have to put him on life support. No, Bambi choked, shaking her head. You can't do that. He's a fighter. This isn't how Scrappy's story ends. Mama D stepped forward, her protective instincts flaring. My son has been through too much to give up now. We will fight. Dr. Mitchell nodded solemnly. We're doing everything we can. But the next 24 hours will decide everything. Silence filled the room as the weight of his words settled in. Outside, reporters clamored for updates, paparazzi flashed cameras, and fans continued to flood social media. But inside, survival was the only concern. Bambi took a deep breath. We need to call everyone. We need as many prayers as possible. We can't let him fight alone. Mama D nodded, her own emotions barely held in check. We're not just praying. We're fighting. Bambi grabbed her phone, dialing family and friends. She refused to believe this was the end. Love, faith, and prayers had to be enough. Then, the impossible happened. Scrappy's fingers twitched. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Bambi saw it. Her heart pounded. Scrappy, she whispered, leaning in. His eyes fluttered, struggling to focus. His voice was barely above a breath, but it was enough. Bam, he murmured. A sob of relief escaped Bambi. Baby, I'm here. I'm right here. She pressed a tearful kiss to his forehead. Just rest. You're going to be okay. Mama D knelt beside him, wiping away her own tears. Boy, you scared the life out of us. Scrappy's lips curled into the faintest smile. I'm still here. A wave of relief washed over the room. But as Dr. Mitchell stood in the doorway, his expression remained tense. Scrappy, you need to keep fighting. Everything will be decided in the next 24 hours. Despite his exhaustion, Scrappy's gaze met Bambi's. I got you. Then, the machines blared again. The beeps became deafening, the erratic rise and fall of Scrappy's chest sent a surge of panic through the room. Dr. Mitchell shouted, his pulses spiking. We need to act fast. Nurses rushed in, frantically adjusting monitors, administering medication. Bambi's voice cracked. What's happening? What's wrong? In the corner, YJC broke down, his voice shaking. Do something. Minutes felt like hours. Eyes locked on the heart monitor, everyone held their breath, praying it would stabilize. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the beeping slowed. The medical team let out a collective sigh of relief. Dr. Mitchell turned to Bambi and Mama D. He's stable for now, but this is just the beginning. We have to be ready for anything. Bambi collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I can't lose him. Mama D took her hands. We won't. We will fight. We will make sure he gets through this. The battle for Scrappy's life was far from over. The next 24 hours would determine everything. Every prayer mattered. Leave a comment below to show your support. Let the world know that love and prayers are powerful. Subscribe for the latest updates as this story unfolds.